Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed and Melanie. Wow, we got us all together, three of us. Guys and girls, tonight is a video that all three of us were in agreement. It's not something that we wanted to do, not something that we like to do, but it's something that was needed to be done. We're talking about Gannon Stauch, the 11-year-old who's brutally murdered back in 2020 in January by his step monster. We have a situation that developed where people thought it was okay to share his autopsy photos and put it up behind a Patreon and a paywall. It's just despicable behavior. But before we get into this, I want to just say a special thank you to the Patreon supporters, the channel members, and all the folks who positively engage in this community. You guys are what makes this a great place, and I thank you for being respectful. I thank you for hanging out with us, asking the tough questions. And Melanie, Ed, myself, we greatly appreciate you guys. And the moderators, you guys are second to none. So thank you. Thank you. Ed, how you doing tonight?
Well, like you said, disturbed by this whole thing. We were talking about it a couple of days ago, and we we didn't go live with it the last members only that we had.
I'm going to break to Brian Enton. He's live right now talking about this very case. So I'm going to just take a listen to what he has to say. He's going to have the prosecutor on with him tonight. So sorry to cut you off, Ed.
People hurt victims' families, especially people with big platforms, to make money. It just really, really gets me. You may remember the story of Gannon Stauch, the Colorado 11-year-old was stabbed 18 times by his stepmother. He was hit in the head, he was shot, and then he was stuffed in a suitcase and left under a bridge in Florida. It was an awful, awful story. You see that little face there. Well, his stepmother, Letitia Stauch, was convicted in May of killing the little boy. The judge said it was the most horrific case that he had ever seen in his entire career. Little Gannon's bedroom, just to give you an idea how bad this was, had blood all over the walls, a blood-soaked mattress, the carpet was soaked, even the concrete under the bed was blood-stained. So to say that this was a brutal killing would really just be an understatement. The trial got a lot of coverage, especially from true crime YouTubers. And I got to say, I know a lot of the podcasters out there. Most of them are really, really responsible. They're good people. I'm friends with a bunch. I was just texting with a buddy a little while ago, a YouTuber. They're ethical, they're victim focused, but you know how it is. There are always bad apples in the group. Really, really bad apples who cross the line and exploit families, grieving families, to make money. I never even heard of this one YouTuber there, Zav Girl, until a bunch of you started messaging me last night. She calls her YouTube page a true crime channel and writes in the description, "I feel it's really important to give victims of these tragic crimes a voice when they don't have one." And she has almost 100,000 subscribers. But for some reason, Zav Girl thought it would be a good idea to put in a Freedom of Information request for little 11-year-old Gannon's autopsy photos. And they actually released the photos to her. She had to pay. They released the photos and she got them. And you can just imagine, based on the description of the way that little boy was killed, what those photos looked like. Zav Girl then proceeded to post them on her Patreon account, which is an account attached to her YouTube page. And she charged her followers money to see the autopsy photos. For $3, you could see little Gannon's body. She was making money off of that little boy's autopsy photos of a severely beaten to death little boy. Really, they just got no place on the internet. It was hard enough for the jury to have to look at them. But for this YouTuber to go to all that trouble to request them, to pay the money, to get them from the government, and not only post them, but then to charge people to see them. I mean, I just find it sick. I question, has Zav Girl ever even been in a courtroom or interviewed a grieving family? That's my issue with some of these YouTubers that cause problems. They hide behind their computers. They don't even use their real names. Like in this case, we don't even know who Zav Girl really is. And if you're so proud of your page, I don't know why people don't just use their real name. And this isn't some video game or TV show you're playing on your computer. This is a real family's life. This morning, Zav Girl, she got a lot of heat for this. She posted a statement on her YouTube page about the controversy. It was deleted. It's back up now. I screen grabbed it. This is part of it. She wrote, "The reality of the situation is that different people feel differently about this. Some people are genuinely think making a video, including the autopsy photos, is bad, and I respect their opinion and feelings. Other people like myself think of autopsy photos and the coroner disgusting, explaining, interesting, and informative, are all able to view it in a more scientific, detached way. Well, Zav girl, there is nothing detached about posting the autopsy photos of an 11-year-old little boy, and then on top of it, which I really think pushes it over the line, charging money for people to see them. It is sick, it's deranged, and you should just own up to it. Whoever you are, wherever you live, maybe get out from behind your computer screen, go to the local courthouse, and actually sit through a murder trial and see what it's like for the families in real life. Not on YouTube, not sitting behind your computer and thinking about clicks, but actually go to the courthouse and see what these families actually have to deal with, and then think about how it might feel for them after having to see those photos in the courtroom, and then have to have them plastered all over the internet, and then be trying to charge people money to view them so you can get rich off of it. It's just awful. I want to bring in District Attorney Michael Allen, who served as the lead prosecutor on little Gannon's case. Thank you for being with us, Michael. You were the lead prosecutor. You had to go through that whole trial. I can't even imagine, like, this just got me so mad thinking about Gannon's family. I know they're aware of this. I mean, how are they processing all of this?
Well, thanks for having me on to talk about this. First off, we reached out to the family members and had discussions with them about this, just letting them know that, one, it's happening and sort of what they can do potentially to combat this. But honestly, there's nothing they can do to get these photos down once they're on the internet. It's just completely disrespectful to the family members that have had to live through this horror. But even more so, Gannon deserves so much more in life from his stepmother, and he certainly deserves dignity and respect in death. And there's nothing about what this YouTuber is doing, and I think there's another one out there as well, that they're doing that provides any dignity or respect to Gannon. And the statement that they put out about this incident, sort of justifying it, it just rings hollow. Other ways to do this, scientifically, they could have used body diagrams that the autopsy also included, instead of putting the actual pictures of Gannon's just completely broken body that reflects the depravity and horror that he had to live through and die at the hands of his stepmother, that he had to suffer. It's outright disgusting, and it just speaks to the lowest of human forms, in my opinion.
And there was a live stream of the trial, correct? And these were specifically blocked from going out to the public. And the same thing, I covered the Lori Vallow trial. Those pictures were also blocked so that they couldn't get out. I just wonder, like, why were these released? I mean, apparently this YouTuber had to pay quite a bit of money to get the photos. Why even send them out?
Great question.
Yeah, so it's state by state how that sort of thing works. The autopsy was actually performed in Florida, and Florida law allows these sort of things to go out under a Freedom of Information Act request. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that these sort of sensitive photos have to be released. And you're right. When we were in trial, we actually put blocked part of the images out to hide some of the more sensitive parts of Gannon's body, and to really show the jury just the injuries, as opposed to sort of making a spectacle of the whole situation, which we did not want to do. That's disrespectful to the family. And again, like I said, takes away the dignity that Gannon deserved in life and in death.
And you mentioned that there are others too. It's not just this one YouTuber. Is there anything that can be done now, Michael, that you can do or that the family can do to sort of get these off the internet, especially stop people from making money off of them?
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the most disgusting part of this too, that they're actually profiting off of somebody else's complete horror? I can't imagine what the family feels deep down inside over this whole thing. There's really not anything that can be done legally. I have suggested that the family reach out to a private attorney to see if there's anything they can do. As far as jurisdiction from my office or from the Colorado courts, I don't think that there's anything that they can do either, unfortunately. And maybe we need to look at changing the law as it relates to autopsy photos being released on the internet, that sort of thing. But, we don't even know where these people live, these two YouTubers live, or where they're posting them from. So it really gets down to jurisdictional boundary lines and what potentially could be done based on where they live and how it's hitting in a particular area.
Yeah, and I'm a part of the true crime community. Like I said, I mean, like 99% of the people out there that follow these cases, I'm sure you realized it too, because the case that you were on was very, very popular online with people watching. You know, they have good intentions. They like to analyze the testimony. They're very, very victim focused. So, you know, most are really good. But I just think that a lot of these YouTubers, the bad ones, don't realize that like these are real human lives. It's not just some like fun thing that you do online on the weekends on YouTube. Like these people go home at night and have to deal with this.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about Gannon's parents, Al and Landen, they've had to live with the horror of what happened to Gannon for over 3 years from that January 2020 date when this all started. And this just keeps those wounds open. They know that Gannon's body is being paraded around essentially on the internet superhighway, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. And it's just grotesque. I can't imagine the low that somebody would have to go to want to put something like this out on the internet when we're talking about an 11-year-old boy who suffered the most horrific injuries and was murdered in the worst possible way.
Yeah, it's awful. Well, the good news is Patreon, where she was charging, at least on that one account, has now taken the account down. I went and checked right before the show, and it like says suspended or something like that. So at least that's some good news. Michael Allen, thank you for coming on. Please express to the family that we just feel terrible about this, and if there's anything we can do to help, let us know.
I absolutely will do. And again, thanks for bringing some attention to this. It's needed. And I can tell you for sure that the family appreciates the scorn that these people are having to live through now.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming on. Okay, still ahead tonight a lot.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Brian Enton, our good friend. Listen, kudos to him. I tip my cap to Brian Enton for coming on and using News Nation's platform to bring attention to this atrocious, horrific, despicable act. Ed, I'm going to go to you first. Your reaction.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the prosecutor said there was accurate, because I remember the controversy after the Dale Earnhardt crash that caused his death in Florida, and someone leaked his autopsy photos. In 2001, they passed a law in Florida that said that it was illegal to have these autopsy photos and distribute them and have them disseminated like this. I read further on the law saying that you can make an application to the judge, and then you'd have to have a substantial reason for wanting these. Now, I don't know this person. I don't know what her background is. I'm not sure if she's in forensics or whatever the case.
She's not in anything.
Right. Well, I mean, like in an educational setting, like when I worked in the medical examiner's office and we were training death investigators, yeah, we used autopsy photos with forensic professionals to train them what to look for and what things meant. But not to charge a fee and then distribute them all over the internet like this. This is just despicable. It's unethical, despicable behavior, and she's making a buck off a tragically murdered 11-year-old. I mean, it doesn't get much lower than this, folks.
Yeah, it's the bottom of the barrel. And for me, Ed, you've investigated 2,500 plus 2,700, crime scenes where, you have someone who is, either murdered or killed by a car accident, whatever the case may be. In the crime scene unit, you dealt with death on a regular basis. You worked in the medical examiner's office with Barbara Butcher, where decedents were handled, and were handled with care, with dignity, respect.
Absolutely.
And when we do this stuff, as a practitioner in law enforcement, I say it at the end of every one of our shows, we would send respect, prayers, strength, and positive vibes to these victims and their families. The families are the ones who are left behind. And what we have here is a classic example of human beings, not just one person, multiple people, who didn't give a rat's ass about an 11-year-old boy who was brutally murdered or his family. And that's the atrocious part of this thing. It is just beyond. I have no words for this.
Yeah, she victimized the victim again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? In his death, he can't even lie comfortable in his death. Rest in peace, right? He can't even be in peace.
Melanie, I want to go to you and your thoughts.
As a mother, I am horrified. As an attorney, I'm not surprised. I can say that. And as someone who covers true crime with you guys on YouTube, I'm offended. I mean, where's the integrity here? You know, where do you draw the line? Where are the boundaries? If somebody who has no expertise in a certain area or in any area can just go out there and troll around and get people to actually pay money to see photos of a naked boy. Okay, so now we're talking about a naked boy. What kind of people is that person attracting to their channel? You know, people with certain proclivities to want to look at naked children.
Yeah,
it's horrific.
That's the second gross piece to this thing, is that there are people that are predators that are out there. We talk about internet predators all the time. So you're providing an avenue for creepy, weird, effed up people to look at this child. It's an 11-year-old boy on an autopsy table. Ed,
for $3.
You and I, for money, as a pay-per-view.
Exactly.
We have seen hundreds of autopsies. We've seen hundreds of scenes, myself, thousands of scenes where different types of brutal murders have taken place with adults and children. I wouldn't even think about this. Melanie, you brought up a great point. You're covering true crime with us, right? You're covering it with police off the cuff, who is a retired homicide detective sergeant, Bill, Phil, and Mike Erie. We at no point, Ed and I have done so many shows about all the different autopsies that were performed on these different cases and these victims. At no time would we ever put one photo or a video or anything, nevertheless put it behind a paywall and ask people to pay for it. We're doing it as an educational live stream with anthropologists, legal medical death investigators, with anthropologists, with odontologists. That's a big difference right there. When you have people that do this and then they claim and backstep and start claiming we got an education out of it. No, the education was 2 months ago when the medical examiner was explaining the gruesome details. When Gannon's family, both the mom, I know at least the mom, had to leave the courtroom because they didn't want to see it. That's when you had the chance to have the education, and people were live streaming it. But
well, if you got no background in any forensics area or medical legal death investigation or whatever the case may be, how are you educating anybody? How do you know what you're looking at? How are you able to describe these things and try to educate people on what this is and what this isn't? And you have no business doing this. Okay? It needs to be investigated. Let's just put it that way. Someone should look at it, maybe the state attorney general's office. I think maybe even the prosecutor should look at this. And if they find out that, everything she did was by the book in Colorado, because I'm sure she didn't get this from Florida. Okay, if they gave her those things post-trial from Colorado, then they need to go to the legislature and pass a new law to stop this.
Right.
Now, she may have not violated any law that currently exists in Colorado or whatever the case may be. But just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And she shouldn't have done this. I mean, did she run this by anybody before she decided to come up with this thing? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And no family. Look, I'm going to play both parents' reactions after this sentence was imposed on this brutal monster who took away their child, who was born at 1 pound. He was 1 pound, and he was given a 10% chance of survival by the doctors. Gannon was born 1 pound. He made it through and was brutally murdered by someone who she trusted. Gannon's mom, Landen, trusted and actually said in an interview, "I loved Tisha." So someone who she trusted. But let's just take a look and listen. This is Al, Gannon's father. And this may be difficult to listen to, and I'm only going to play a short piece of it. So for those of you who are sensitive, I'm playing this so you guys can get a real good feel for who these people hurt, who this posting of these autopsy photographs behind a paywall or anywhere There's nowhere where this shit should be posted. This should not be posted, period. But this is the result. And I'm going to just want you guys to, again, this is going to be tough to listen to.
Now for my precious, premature firstborn son. Get it? I never in my wildest dreams would have ever thought you'd be in danger, buddy, or I know I wouldn't have not left you. At home with what turned out to be your murderer and the last person to ever see you on this earth. I'm so sorry. Through a father's eyes, children are truly a gift from God, and among the best and most perfect creations God can make. Your Honor, I do need to clear one thing up with the defense. It was said both in the opening statement and in the closing, somehow Gannon has been compared to a demon. And I understand the process, I do. But if they want to take the case up of Gannon being a demon, I will line people up from Alaska to Denver, to Colorado Springs, all the way to South Carolina to testify against them. Gannon was nobody's demon. I don't care how much anyone was abused or anything. He was not anyone's demon. Oh, okay.
There's more. I'm going to post a link to that full statement that Gannon's father left there in the courtroom with that monster standing right to his left. These are the people who are affected by people posting pictures, videos, so forth of their son's autopsy. This is who they should have thought of before they posted that shit. It's despicable, disgusting. Melanie, I want to go to you.
Well, you should have prepared me for that video, Ron. You can't just spring that on me and not let me know that's coming. You know, this trial was going on at the same time as the West trial, correct?
Mhm.
And so I could only stomach one of them, and I watched or listened to the West trial, the entire thing, and I could not bring myself to do both of them at the same time. But for a person, this YouTuber who claims to be a voice for the victims, I would submit that what she did was the antithesis of that. That's not being a voice for the victims. That's being a distributor of disgusting materials. And somebody said in the chat, could it be child exploitation? You know, I looked into the federal rules on this and the statutes, and you know, everything points to the child being alive when the pictures are taken and being sexually exploitative. So I don't know. That was my first concern, was that this could be a federal crime, dissemination of naked photos of a child. But I don't know, because they were public record. And I'm surprised that the prosecutor indicated that he thought they were obtained from Florida, because I don't think they were obtained from Florida. I think they were part of the court record in Colorado. I went to law school in Colorado at University of Denver. They have a very, very liberal Freedom of Information Act. Their Records Act is very liberal. And in fact, recently, I think as recently as February, when there was a nightclub shooting in El Paso County, they released the crime scene photos to the media, the gruesome crime scene photos of multiple victims.
And this is El Paso
the state
County.
they were in. Yeah. So Colorado has a very liberal policy for this. And if this person paid, and I read somewhere that she paid $400 or something for the photos, it's quite possible that they came directly from the courthouse, if they were part of the court record and part of the exhibits. And somebody else mentioned in the chat, maybe it's time for something like Gannon's Law, where you can't publish these things on the internet.
Yeah, something's got to change, because this is despicable. And Ed, I saw you shaking your head and agreeing. You know, just as a human being, I just don't know where thought process was. And I've been listening to all of the online chatter, and it seems like this was motivated by money. This was the person spoke about, I need to recoup the money I spent on this thing. That in itself makes it even more despicable. To be fair, I want to play Gannon's mom. She, again, this will tug at your heartstrings as well, but I want you guys to know that this needs to be heard, because these are the true victims being re-victimized. They just 2 months ago had to go through this and hear these gruesome details and listen to a long trial about how and what happened to their son. And now 2 months later, multiple people felt it was okay to repost this stuff and have people in the chat making jokes about this youth's genitalia and all the things that they showed during this preview, or whatever the hell you want to call it. Let's let this play. There, it goes on. You get the idea. This is a mom who, when she started talking about her son's body being found recovered under that footbridge in Florida, she lost it, right? But she held it together. She talks about God. Both her and Al always talk about their faith. And, to have some people on the internet, YouTubers, do this and think it was okay, and to have the people who follow them think it's okay, those are the kind of people who I want to walk the opposite way from. I don't want anything to do with anybody that thinks that is okay. And the reason I set up and played both the parents' interviews is because I want everyone that's watching this on a replay and that is watching this live to understand that there are human beings. These people have to live the rest of their lives with the pain and the suffering. And who in their right mind would inflict more harm onto them? Who? A monster.
Well,
go ahead.
She's
Ed.
obviously not a parent, because if the shoe were on the other foot and it was her child that was murdered so heinously, and somebody did this to her, I'm sure she would be singing a different tune.
100%. Melanie, when you saw Landen give that short little speech there, I saw that you looked down. I know that was tough for you to listen to. Just want to get your thoughts.
I mean, the strength that woman showed was unbelievable. If this was my child, I don't know that I'd be able to do that. I don't know that I would ever want to see those photos. And the fact that this person not only thought it was okay to do it, but thought that it was a profitable thing to do, shocks the conscience of anybody with a normal sense of boundaries and ethics. And how much money could it have been worth to this? How much money could this person have made? Was it worth the money? How much makes it worth it? I'm so stumped by this. Speechless again.
I want to go to the audience because there's a lot of people in the chat. A lot of the super chats went by. I didn't ignore them, but they're gone. Like most of them have gone. But Nay here puts in a $5 super chat. She says, "A beyond disgusted Aussie. Surely sharing child abuse images could bring charges. Thank you for addressing this."
I appreciate that. But there's people in the chat that are saying, "Get your story straight. She never posted any photos of Gannon." She said it herself, and in the screen capture there that was just on the show.
It was posted.
Wait, is it semantics? She didn't post them, but if you paid $3, she emailed them to you. No. I mean, is that what we're talking about here? They weren't publicly posted, but you could obtain them if you paid your $3. You got them somehow. YouTube would never have allowed this. YouTube shuts you down if you put certain words in your title or if you say certain words in the first 5 minutes of your video. Yeah. So I don't know much about this Patreon platform, but
yeah, I thought it was a private Patreon. Members only, paid members could get in and take a look at this.
It is, Ed. Don't get caught up with this nonsense. These are people that obviously support what these people did, and it was 2 people that I know of personally, and it doesn't matter how you slice it, it's not right.
Yeah, I mean, why? I mean, why are we trying to split hairs here?
Yeah, Patreon shut it down. Brian Enton earlier in the video, Brian Enton mentioned Patreon shut down according to eyewitnesses and people who have been following it. Patreon removed the posts one time or two times, and then the person re-uploaded them to like kind of double down on it. So it's no matter how you slice this is despicable and disgusting behavior. Whether you posted them behind a with a private link, and then I heard one of the others posted it on a link that took you to a Dropbox that anybody that had the link could view it. So that means if someone shared it out onto the Twitter sphere or out into the World Wide Web, you now will have people all over the world being able to access this stuff. So I'm happy that Patreon did the right thing. I just have to say that anybody who has thoughts to do this in the future, do not do this. This is not a good look. Never, ever. Not in the name of education, not in the name of learning, not in the name. You don't do this. That is not something to do, especially when it involves a child. Okay. Again, an adult, autopsy photos, that's not good. It's
Where the hell is your moral compass? Where is it? Is it broken? Did you ever have one?
It's broken.
Okay, I just don't understand this. And for anybody defending this, I don't see why you're splitting hairs here. It's wrong.
Right. Yeah.
She doubled down on it too, because I watched something that, we were talking about, and she doubled down on it, defending herself. This is science. You're gross if you think it's gross. You're the one who's disgusting if you're interpreting this in a disgusting way. I'm teaching people, and we're scientific, and we want to see these because, I'm a scientific person, and it's about science. It's about exploitation for money. I don't care what you want to call it. There's nothing scientific about that.
Yeah. And
people were commenting on the boys' private parts, for lack of a better term. Like, really? Making jokes? Like, that's cute. That's classy.
Yeah. Yep. And someone in the chat said, we need the good deeds for Gannon. Just what his mom said there in that piece that I played. And again, no matter how you try to defend this, there's no defense for it. I don't care how it was done, the details, whether we have it right or wrong. I believe that we have it right. And you heard it on News Nation. Brian Enton went live at 9 p.m. Eastern on Dan Abrams and did an expose on this thing. Okay. Whether he had the intricate details of it completely right or a little bit wrong, it doesn't matter. The heart of what's wrong is posting pictures of an 11-year-old's autopsy. That is fucked up.
There's a thing called the dark web, and there's lots of creepy people on there. And this is where you find that kind of stuff. You don't find this kind of stuff, in mainstream YouTube, true crime channels. You just don't.
Yeah. It's
attracting a whole different set of clientele.
Ed, you and I both know about this, and we know people who worked in sex crimes in the NYPD. I know you know quite a few, Ed. There's lots of creeps out there. I want to just say this again. This is not something that we enjoy to have to do. I would hope and pray that we never have to do this again. Let's get the word out there that this is not okay. Okay. Even in my opinion, an apology and a deletion, you still can't undo the harm that you did to this family.
Yeah, once it's out, it's out. There's no taking it back. The genie's out of the bottle. You can't put the cork back in.
No.
And Reddit, people have it.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what, Glare, thank you for that super chat, and thank you for the accolades earlier on. He did a show. The Glaire's got his own YouTube show. If I get the okay from him, I'd like to go on to his YouTube and show some pictures that he got permission to show from Gannon's mom or Gannon's dad, or maybe both. So if Glare gives me the okay to do that, I'll get up onto his page, because today he posted some really nice pictures of Gannon. I think that's how we should eventually end this live stream. So, but thank you for that super chat. So I'm just waiting to see in the chat, Ed, or any of you guys see the yes or no, because if the family doesn't want it, then obviously we won't do it. I know he said he got permission from them, and it was a nice collage of pictures of Gannon, and I'd be happy to share that. So let me just get that ready. Yeah, this has really just upset me. Like when I got wind of this the other day, it was just. It just made my stomach turn just thinking about it, and just thinking about these people and the grandparents or aunts and uncles and Gannon's sister and everybody, the extended family, the people in the community, Gannon's army, right? She talked about, and the father talked about Gannon's army. There's probably tens of thousands of people across the globe who's been covering or been following this case along with the family on Facebook and all the different places on, line. So it just to me is just, it's horrific to just put this and try to put it into perspective. It's so hard to do it. You can't. There's no way to say that this is okay. Go ahead, Ed.
It's a testament to our society and how we're falling. Right, where people think they can do anything they want to do, and there's no well, I'm just so frustrated by it that there's nothing can be held, no one can be held accountable for their actions. There's always an excuse for why somebody did something, and they get away with it. And this shit's got to stop.
Yeah.
It's not just this issue, and that's why you never say I've seen it all, because you never seen it all. Because when you say something like that, someone is going to shock your conscience with the next crazy thing they've done.
Yeah. Well said, Ed. Well said. And we're all kind of upset over this. It's a shock to everyone. But I want to just put a statement out there, and I'm going to go full screen with this. Just pardon me for a moment, folks. In no way, shape, or form do we ever condone anybody attacking or personally going after the individuals or people who conduct this type of behavior, that do this kind of stuff. I'll never say to anyone, go over and, throw threats out to these people. I am imploring everyone to act civilly. Do not send threats or any type of hateful discussion towards these people, because that puts you in that same position.
No, don't turn them into the victim. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't because of what you saw here or what you heard. Don't do that.
I'm begging you guys, don't do that. It's not a good thing, because that makes you just as bad as a criminal, a common criminal. All right. We got the approval from Glara, so I'm going to play. This was earlier from his coverage he did on this. It was about 2 hours of live stream, but I'm going to play this part with his permission from earlier today. And these are beautiful pictures of Gannon. I've never seen them, but he said that they were on Landen's Facebook page, but it's not public, so you have to be following her. So let me play this. I'm going to go full screen with it, and then we'll be right back. Thank you, Glara. Will, that was beautifully done. And that was something when I watched your full replay, because I was at work when you were live. I came in towards the end of this. I scrolled back and watched the whole replay, and this was so well done. And again, I tip my cap to you. Thank you for that beautiful tribute to Gannon played today on his stream. Everybody should go over and give him a follow and check him out. Ed, I'm just going to go around from you to Melanie on the last. We're not going to be live with this. This is it. This is what our statement is. It's, again, we've said it, numerous times during this course of this live stream. This is behavior that you should run the other way from. You should not be a part of this. And shame on anyone who paid to go and see that, to see those photos. If you did that, you got some soul searching to do. Ed, I'll go right to you.
Yeah, for those of you who've been watching us for a while, you know how I talk about children, and we are all made in the image of God, and the children are the innocent. And when they die and are murdered in this fashion, and they had their life snuffed out from them without fulfilling their destiny, or God's destiny, for that matter. It's so hurtful, and then to have something like this occur, victimizing the victim again and victimizing the families of the victim, it's just I weep for the future of our society. I don't understand why people do things like this.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever understand, Ed, but well said. Melanie, over to you.
The first thing we teach our children about the internet is that once you put something out on the internet, it's out there forever. And just because you delete it doesn't mean that it's gone. And if children can grasp that concept, why can't adults? I just hope that poor little Gannon rests in peace and dignity and respect, because that's what he deserves. And his family did not deserve this.
Yeah, amen to that. And I'll say this, let this be an example to any person or persons that are in the future thinking about doing something so stupid like this and so reckless and so hurtful. Use these two YouTube channels as an example of what not to do. And I don't care what kind of excuses or how they try to twist and turn this. This is a horrific look, in my opinion, and in my time on YouTube, in the time that I've been on YouTube, which is over 5 years, this is by far, and I have seen fake cancer fundraisers. I've seen fake dog or animal fundraisers. I've seen all kinds of scams and St. Jude stealing of money and all kinds of craziness that has gone on. We could go on and on about this, but this takes the cake. This is the utmost worst thing that I've seen in the time that I've been on YouTube. So you have a choice to make. Do you want to walk with someone who stands for something like this, or the folks who stand for something like this and think that this is okay? Or do you want to take the high road and say, hey, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to be attached to it. My grandmother always said, you're judged by the company you keep. And that's why I'm around people like Ed Wallace, Melanie Little, Bill Cannon, Sergeant Bill, Detective Phil, Mike Geary, Mike King from Profiling Evil. And they showed 4 YouTube content creators in the beginning of that News Nation piece who all are respectful. Linda from It's a Crime. Annie from 10th to Life. All good people. So don't be fooled by, I think Brian was putting them up to show the good. And then he went right into his thing. But again, folks, I can't overemphasize that this is despicable behavior that you don't want to be a part of.
Yes, and let's take the high road here, okay? Don't go to that site. Don't try to converse with these people. Don't harass them. Don't call them names. Okay, don't turn them into a victim. All right, they're victimizers. All right, don't make them a victim. Let them deal with what they did. All right. If anything, speak to the legislature and find out if they can pass Gannon's law to stop this from happening again.
Amen to that, brother. All right, guys and girls, I'm not going to use our outro tonight. We're going to end it with from Glara's YouTube channel. And we're going to just say, again, we send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to Gannon's mom and dad, Al and Landen, the extended family. If there's anything that we can do to help in any way, just reach out. If you're watching this replay, or if anybody who's close to them, if they need any type of emotional or support, we would be there for them. I know that I speak for my panel here. Anything or anything that they would need, we would be there for them. All right, guys, good night. On behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace and Melanie Little, thank you all for being here. Make sure you share and hang around for about a minute or more of a tribute again to Gannon. Good night from New York. Thank you, guys.